Hare Krishna, all glories to Srila Prabhupada, all glories to the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, all glories to the assembled devotees from the Prabhupada Disciples Association who are attending these readings and discussions weekly on our Zoom calls. And we truly appreciate your participation because that makes all the difference in the world for us. As a group, making an effort to continue our sadhana bhakti program in association with other devotees. This is a situation where many of us over the years have been isolated from our God brothers for a variety of reasons. And this use of technology has been a boon for many of us to reestablish links with devotees globally that we had a little bit of association with or no association with, and now we're getting the opportunity to have their association, and it's a great boon for us. The Sadhu Sangha process, which was promoted by Srila Prabhupada as a means for becoming Krishna conscious, Guru Shastra Sadhu. It's not just a popularity contest here, but a effort to continue the instructions of our spiritual master in practicing Krishna consciousness in cooperation with each other. So thank you everyone for being a part of it. I believe, Vinkat, we are at 113 classes that are now programs that are now published on our YouTube channel, which is Krishna Consciousness Movement YouTube. So if you want to go back and see the evolution of the classes over the last, I'd say it appears to be 10 months, then it's a celebration for us to be able to offer our service in this way for Srila Prabhupada's mission. And we know, reading the diaries of Srila Prabhupada, which we've been enjoying, and I had compliments from some of our members how much they're really enjoying it. The beginning, 1966, the journal, that was a magic time. Actually, all of the time that Prabhupada was personally present with us in his Vapu incarnation, manifestation, was extremely memorable for us that we're allowed that opportunity, even though many of us didn't really appreciate how much mercy we were getting during Prabhupada's manifested presence. And it's fortunate through the work of many of our God brothers and God sisters that they captured his presence. And now we're able to take advantage of that opportunity to get the association of Prabhupada in his Vani incarnation. I know when we used to go, Balaram, if you recall, to Mayapur for the festivals, it was very physically challenging, as you know. If you can remember, in 73, everybody was sick. We all got sick, and it was very difficult to stay strong physically, being from the West. And the programs were rather rigorous, very challenging, and many times people would fall asleep in the classes. Prabhupada would be giving class and you'd look around and half the crowd would be nodding out, just couldn't stay awake because they were so exhausted from jet lag and physical ailments and the change of diet and the temperature and the mosquitoes and this and that. And it was just very difficult. But I could say that us having this opportunity to read his diaries, that we are very carefully every class, and having these classes and discussions, these readings and discussions being led by His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu are very valuable assets for us that are still eager to hear about the transcendental messages from our spiritual master. So we're going to carry on today with the reading from the diary. We're at April 7th. And there's insight here. People may not really see it, but if you just carefully examine how Prabhupada is progressing, Krishna will reveal to you and to all of us the focus that Srila Prabhupada had despite all of his difficulty. So Thursday, April 7th, sunrise was 5:30 a.m., sunset was 6:34 p.m., and the moonrise was 9:37 p.m. Tritya. Today I'm staying with Paul. I cook food and dined with Paul and Sakar. They liked the foodstuffs, very nice. Prabhupada was an expert cook. Circumstances seem to be favorable. Paul promises to organize. He is enthusiastic. Let us see. Yes, and we will see. He attended the morning class punctually. So not many attendees. Friday, April 18th, or April 8th, sunrise 5:29 a.m., sunset 6:36 p.m., moonrise 10:53. Chaturthi. Today, the whole day and night, also I stayed at Mr. Paul's loft, saw Elsie to inquire about the Library of Congress card. Not very encouraging. Evening, there was meeting, 7 boys and girls attended. Contribution, $5. And some fruits also. And the bus fare was 30 cents. Saturday, April 9th, 1966, back in time. Sunrise at 5:27 a.m., sunset at 6:37 p.m. Panchami today. I went to Dr. Mishra's apartment. He did leave the key with doorman, so I had some difficulty to enter the room. The doorman opened the door by his keys, and by entering the room, I saw that doctor got my note. Anyway, I cooked some kittery and took it because there was no flour. After a little rest, I took my typewriters and came down to my room at 72nd Street. From there, I came to Paul's loft. In the evening, Shushman met me. He brought some grains. Expenditure, subway fare, 30 cents. Paul paid $2. And the total expense was $230. Sunrise, Sunday, April 10th. Sunrise, 5:25 a.m. Sunset, 6:38 p.m. Moonrise, I guess it's midnight at 3. Shasti today, the whole day, I remained at Paul's loft and did not go out. I paid Paul $1 for expenses. Today I'm working on Koan's big royal typewriter, and it is very good for hard working. Paul is impressed with my mission in America. No income, and the expenditure was $1. Monday, April 11th, 1966. Sunrise 5:23 a.m. Sunset 6:39 p.m. Moonrise Saptami. Today I took meals with Dr. Mishra. The expenditure for Dr. Mishra, TR, was $5. Paid to Paul for expenses $1, and bus fare 45 cents. So it's $6.45. In the evening, there was meeting. 7 gentlemen attended. The collection was $5. So not everybody gave a donation. Out of 7 people, a few gave, the rest didn't bother. And do we have more, Vinkat? Tuesday, April 12th. Oh, heck. We'll end there. I missed April 13th. Sunrise 5:21 a.m., sunset 6:41 p.m., moonrise 1:05 a.m. Astami today, I have been to New Delhi House. Mr. Mukherjee of Passport Department kept my undertaking and a passport for necessary action. Will return on Monday the 18th. Paul paid for battery $1. Bus fare was 30 cents. And my total expenditure was $1.30. So on, Prabhupada is marching with very small success so far, but nonetheless still progressing. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Now we'll have the chanting of Jaya Radha Madhava, the bhajan to introduce the class, the reading and discussion of Caitanya-caritāmṛta with His Grace Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Sai. Jaya Radha Madhava Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Punya Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Saraswati Goswami Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai, Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai, Prem se kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Sri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Sam Kund Radha Kund Giridharan ki jai, Vrindavan Dham ki jai, Navadvip Dham ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai, Ganga Mai ki jai, Jamuna Mai ki jai, Tulasi Devi ki jai, Bhakti Devi ki jai, Swami Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the assembled Lord. All glories to the assembled Lord. Thank you very much.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam. Narayanam Namaskrityam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Naram Cheva Narottamam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Devim Saraswatim Vyasam. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Tato Jayam Mudirayat. Welcome everyone to this reading of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta. We'll be reading and discussing from the original non-edited, non-adulterated Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta published in 1974. First, we will read a few verses from the Adi Lila, chapter 1, from text 18 to 22. Jai Jai Sri Caitanya Jai Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Glory to Sri Caitanya and Nityananda. Glory to Advaita Chandra, and glory to all the devotees of Sri Gaura, Lord Chaitanya. Text 19. 18 Thakur Gaudiya ke karye chenayatmasat. 18 Charana Vandana Tiri Morenat. These three deities of Vrindavana, Madan Mohan, Govinda, and Gopinatha, have absorbed the heart and soul of the Gaudiya Vaishnavas, followers of Lord Chaitanya. I worship their lotus feet, for they are the lords of my heart. Text 20. Grantera Rambi Kari Mangala Charana Guru Vaishnav Bhagavan Tinera Smarana. In the beginning of this narration, simply by remembering the spiritual master, the devotees of the Lord, and the personality of Godhead, I have invoked their benedictions. Text 21. Tinera Smaraneyai Vigna Vinashana Anayaseyai Nijavanchita Purana. Such remembrance destroys all difficulties and very easily enables one to fulfill his own desires. Text 22. Se Mangala Charanoi Trivida Prakar Vastu Nirdesha Shirvada Namaskara. The invocation involved three processes: defining the objective, offering benedictions, and offering obeisances. Before we start the reading, I just wanted to make a few announcements. Today, Balaram Prabhu, or yesterday, whenever that was for him, Balaram Prabhu in Australia sent a very nice posting on WhatsApp describing the Ratha Yatra Bahuda, which is the return of Lord Jagannath back to his home in the Jagannath Puri temple. A very nice explanation. And also, according to the calendar of some South Indian Ramanuja Vaishnavas, today is the appearance day of Sudarshana, one of the associates of Lord Vishnu. So this is a very special day, very auspicious day. And last final announcement, On Sunday, coming up on Sunday, California time at 6 p.m., West Coast time, there will be an initiation ceremony televised live. It's going to be on Zoom, and we will be sending invitations soon. We will be commencing pretty sharply at 6 o'clock. There's a devotee from Montreal, Bhakta Michael, who will be initiated, and Bhakta Venkat and his good wife will also be initiated. So we invite everybody to participate. So now today we'll be reading from Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, Adi Lila chapter 3, from text 63 probably till 73, 72, like that. Smita lokaha shokamarati jagatam yasya paritu giram tu prarambha kushala patalim pallavayati padalambaha kam vapranayati nahi premanivaham sadevas Caitanya-caritāmṛta nakripayatu. Smita, smiling, alokaha, glance, shokam, the bereavement, harati, takes away, jagatam, of the world, yasya, whose, paritaha, all around, giram, of the speech, to, also, prarambaha, the beginning, kushala, of auspiciousness, patalim, the mass, pallavayati, causes to blossom, pada alambaha, the taking hold of the lotus feet, kamva, what possibly, pranayati, leads to, na, not, he, certainly, premanivaham, quantity of love of Godhead, saha, he, devaha, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Caitanya-akritihi, having the form of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, atitaram, excessively, na, unto us, kripayatu, may he show his mercy. Translation by Srila Prabhupada. May the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the form of Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Lord Sri Chaitanya, bestow his causeless mercy upon us. His smiling glance at once drives away all the bereavements of the world, and his very words enliven the auspicious creepers of devotion by expending their leaves. Taking shelter of his lotus feet invokes transcendental love of God at once. Text 64. Shriyanga Shrimukha Yekari Darashana Tara Papakshaya Vyapaya Premadhana. Shriyanga, his body, Shrimukha, his face, Ye, anyone who, Kare, does, Darashana, seeing, Tara, of him, Papakshaya, destruction of sins, Haya, there is, Paya, obtains, Premadhana, the wealth of love of Godhead. Translation. Anyone who looks upon his beautiful body or beautiful face becomes freed from all sins and obtains the wealth of love of Godhead. Text 65. Anyavatare sabasenya shastra sange Caitanya Krishna rasanya anga upange. Anya, other, avatare, in incarnations, Saba, all, Senya, soldiers, Shastra, and weapons, Sange, along with, Caitanya Krishnera, of Lord Krishna, as Lord Chaitanya, Senya, soldiers, Anga, plenary parts, Upange, and associates. Translation. In other incarnations, the Lord descended with armies and weapons, but in this incarnation, his soldiers are his plenary parts and associates. Text 66. Sadopasyaha Srimandrita Manujakaya Pranayitam Vahadbir Giravanir Girisha Parameshti Prabhritibihi svabhaktibhyaha shuddham nija bhajana mudram upadishan sachetanyaha kim me punarapi drishur yasyati padam. Sada, always. Upasyaha, worshipable. Shriman, beautiful. Drita, who accepted. Manujakaye, the bodies of men. Pranayitam, love. Vahadbihi, who were bearing. Gihi Vane, by the demigods. Girisha, Lord Shiva. Parameshti, Lord Brahma. Prabhritibihi, headed by. Svabhaktibhyaha, unto his own devotees. Shuddham, pure. Nija bhajanam, of his own worship. Mudram, the mark. Upadishan, instructing. Sa, he. Chaitanyaha, Lord Chaitanya. Kim, what? Me, my. Punaha, again. Api, certainly. Drisho, of the two eyes. Yasyati, he will go. Padam, to the abode. Translation. Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipable deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who came in the garb of ordinary man bearing love for him. He instructs his own pure devotional service to his own devotees. Will he again be the object of my mission, of my vision? Text 67. Ango panga astrakare svakarya sadan anga shabderarta arshuna diyaman anga yupanga, plenary parts and associates, astra, weapons, kare, do, svakarya, of their own business, sadhana, as the accomplishment, anga shabdera, of the word anga, artha, the meaning, ara, another, shuna, please hear, diya, giving, mana, the mind. Translation. His plenary parts and associates perform the work of weapons as their own specific duties. Please hear from me another meaning of the word anga. Anga shabde amsakare shastra paraman angera avayanu panga vyakyan. Anga shabde, but the word anga, or limb, amsha, part, kahe, says, shastra, of the scriptures, paramana, the evidence, angera, of the limb, avayava, the constituent part, upanga, vyakyana, the exposition of the word upanga. Translation. According to the evidence of the revealed scriptures, a body limb, anga, is also called a part, amsha, and a part of a limb is called a partial limb, a partial part, upanga. Text 69. Narayanastvam nahi sarvadehinam atmasya dishakila loka sakshi Narayanwangam narabhujalayanat tachapi satyam nataveva maya. Narayanaha, Lord Narayana. Tvam, you. Na, not. He, certainly. Sarva, all. Dehinam, of the embodied beings. Atma, the supersoul. Asi, you are. Adisha, O Lord, Akila Loka, of all the worlds, Sakshi, the witness, Narayana, known as Narayana, Angam, plenary portion, Nara, of Nara, Bhu, born, Jala, in the water, Ayanat, due to the place of refuge, Tat, that, Cha, end, Api, certainly, Satyam, highest truth, Na, not, Tava, your, Eva, at all, Maya, the illusory energy. Translation: O Lord of Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. Are you not therefore my father, Narayana? Narayana refers to one whose abode is in the water born from Nara, Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, and that Narayana is your plenary portion. All your plenary portions are transcendental. They are absolute and are not creations of Maya. Purport: this text was spoken to Lord Krishna by Brahma in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-14. Text 70. Jalashayi antaryami ye Narayana seho tomaram satumi mula Narayana. Jalashayi, lying in the water. Antaryami, indwelling. Super soul. Ye, he who. Narayana, Lord Narayana. Seho, he. Tomara, your. Amsha, plenary portion. To me, you. Mula, original. Narayana, Narayana. The manifestation of the Narayana who predominates in everyone's heart, as well as the Narayana who lives in the waters, Karana, Garbha, and Kshira, is your plenary portion. You are therefore the original Narayana. Text 71. Anga Shabdyam Sakai Sehu Satyahai Maya Karyanahe Sabachidanandamai. Anga Shabdi, by the word, Anga. Amsha, plenary portion. Kahe, one means. Seho, that. Satya, the truth. Haya, is. Maya, of the material energy. Karya, the work. Nahe, is not. Saba, all. Chit Anandamaya, full of knowledge and bliss. Translation: the word Anga indeed refers to plenary portions. Such manifestations should never be considered products of material nature, for they're all transcendental, full of knowledge and full of bliss. Purport: in the material world, if a fragment is taken from an original object, the original object is reduced by the removal of that fragment. But the Supreme Personality of Godhead is not at all affected by the actions of Maya. The Ishopanishad says, Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Mudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because he is completely perfect, all emanations from him, such as this phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete in itself. Because he is the complete whole, even though so many complete units emanate from him, he remains the complete balance. Sri Ishopanishad invocation. In the realm of the absolute, 1 + 1 = 1, and 1 - 1 = 1. Therefore, one should not conceive of a fragment of the Supreme Lord in the material sense. In the spiritual world, there is no influence of the material energy or material calculations of fragments. In the 15th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says that the living entities are his part and parcels. There are innumerable living entities throughout the material and spiritual universes. But still, Lord Krishna is full in himself. To think that God has lost his personality because his many part and parcels are distributed all over the universe is an illusion. That is a material calculation. Such calculations are possible only under the influence of the material energy Maya. In the spiritual world, the material energy is conspicuous only by its absence. In the category of Vishnu Tattva, there is no loss of power from one expansion to the next, any more than there is a loss of illumination as one candle kindles another. Thousands may be kindled by an original candle, and all will have the same candle power. In this way, it is to be understood that although all the Vishnu Tattvas from Krishna and Lord Chaitanya to Rama, Nrisimha, Varaha, and so on, appear with different features in different ages, all are equally invested with supreme potency. Demigods such as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva come in contact with the material energy, and their power and potency are therefore of different gradations. All the incarnations of Vishnu, however, are equal in potency, for the influence of Maya cannot even approach them. Text 72. Advaita Nityananda Chaitanya Ryudhuyanga Angera Vayana Gana Karye Upanga Advaita-ācārya Nityananda, Lord Nityananda, Chaitanya of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, Dui 2, Anga limbs, Angera of the limbs, Avayana Gana the constituent parts, Kahiye I say, Upanga parts. Translation: Sri Advaita Prabhu and Sri Nityananda Prabhu are both plenary portions of Lord Chaitanya. Thus they are the limbs, angas of his body. The parts of these two limbs are called the upangas. Text 73. Anga panga tikshnastra prabhur sahite sesaba astrahaya pashanda dalite. Anga upanga, plenary portions and parts. Tikshna, sharp. Astra, weapons. Prabhura sahite, along with Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Say these. Saba, all. Astra, weapons. Haya, are. Pashanda, the atheist. Dalite, to trample. Translation: Thus the Lord is equipped with sharp weapons in the forms of his part and plenary portions. All these weapons are competent enough to crush the faithless atheist. Purport: The word Pashanda is very significant here. One who compares the Supreme Personality of Godhead to the demigods is known as a Pashanda. Pashandas try to bring the Supreme Lord down to a mundane level. Sometimes they create their own imaginary God or accept an ordinary person as God and advertise them as equal to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They are so foolish that they present someone as the next incarnation of Lord Chaitanya or Krishna, although his activities are all contradictory to those of a genuine incarnation, and thus they fool the innocent public. One who is intelligent and who studies the characteristics of the Supreme Personality of Godhead with reference to the Vedic context cannot be bewildered by the Pashandas. Pashandas or atheists cannot understand the pastimes of the Supreme Lord or transcendental loving service to the Lord. They think that devotional service is no better than ordinary fruitive activities, karma. As stated, as Bhagavad Gita 4:8 confirms, however, the Supreme Personality of Godhead and his devotees, saving the righteous and chastising the miscreants, paritranaya sadhunam, vinashaya cha dushkritam, always curb these nonsensical atheists. Miscreants always want to deny the Supreme Personality of Godhead and put stumbling blocks in the path of devotional service. The Lord sends his bona fide representatives and appears himself to curb this nonsense. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshuran Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances, we all offer our respectful obeisances to our spiritual master, Srila Prabhupada, who has opened my eyes, who has opened our eyes from the darkness of ignorance with the torchlight of transcendental knowledge. Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Bhakti Siddhanta Shishyaya Bhaktivedanta Namine Prasannaya Prashantaya Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Bhagavad Vandanam Khadyam Guru Vandana Purvakam Kshiram Sharkara Yuktam Kadatihi Visheshataham Adadana Strinam Danteridam Yachi Punah Punah Srimad Rupa Padam Bhoja Dhulishyam Janma Janmani Namo Mahabadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Gauratvishe Namaha. Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Shri Rup Shri Sanatana Bhatta Raghunatha Shri Jiva Gopala Bhatta Dasa Raghunatha. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So here we see that Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, the renowned author of Sri Caitanya-caritāmṛta, has continued his description of the divinity of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It is quite unique that in this age of Kali Yuga, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in 1486 AD, and he stayed for a very short time, only 48 years. He departed in 1534. He displayed his pastimes, and he was predicted. Avatars or incarnations are confirmed in various revealed scriptures. Now the Vedas, the Srimad Bhagavatam, various Puranas and Samhitas had confirmed the appearance of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his divine activities. Now in this reading today, there are two Sanskrit verses, text number 63 and text number 66. These were compiled by Srila Rupa Goswami Prabhupada, describing the unique personality of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. It's from the Stavamala of Sri Rupa Goswami. It's very interesting that the potency of seeing the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is described by Rupa Goswami saying, his smiling glance at once drives away all the bereavements of the world, and his very words enliven the auspicious creepers of devotion by expending their leaves. Taking shelter of his lotus feet invokes transcendental love of God at once. Then in text number 66, Rupa Goswami describes that Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is always the most worshipable deity of the demigods, including Lord Shiva and Lord Brahma, who came in the garb of ordinary men bearing love for him. He instructs his own pure devotional service to his own devotees. Will ye again be the object of my mission? of my vision. Now, it's quite significant as Krishnadas Kaviraj systematically describes the scriptural evidence for the appearance of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and analyzes various statements of Rupa Goswami and Srimad Bhagavatam of how he builds the case to understand the special position, the divine position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, anyone who has read Caitanya-caritāmṛta in the beginning of chapter 1 of the Adilila, for the first 20 verses, he systematically presents the basis of this entire Adilila of Caitanya-caritāmṛta, the position of Lord Chaitanya, his primary associate, Lord Nityananda, his other main associate, Lord Advaita-ācārya, Srivas Thakur, and Gadadhar Pandit. And it explained, he gives the Sanskrit verses, and then he goes systematically and presents why Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, some of you, I'm assuming that some of you are familiar with that verse from Srimad Bhagavatam, Krishna Varnam Tvisha Krishnam, Sangha Upanga Parshadam, Yagne Samkirtana Prayer Yajantihi Sumidasaha. The Srimad Bhagavatam describes how in previous yugas, Krishna appeared in different colors. But in Kali Yuga, although his name is described in the Vishnu Sahasranam as Triloka, one who only comes in 3 yugas. But the Srimad Bhagavatam in the 7th canto explains, Channakalo Yadabhavas Triyugo Ata Sattvam. The word Triyuga is mentioned by Prahlad Maharaj, that you appear in the age of Kali Yuga, Channakalo. In this age, it is like a covered incarnation, a disguised incarnation. Of course, the potency of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was such that even though he came and did not advertise himself as being Lord Vishnu himself or Lord Krishna, his close associates could understand this. Great scholars like Rupa Goswami, Sanatan Goswami, Jiva Goswami, and his associates in Jagannath Puri could understand that this is directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, it's interesting to note that Bhaktivedanta Thakur, in his various writings, compiled numerous evidences about the special, unique position of Lord Chaitanya. Now, Caitanya-caritāmṛta discusses quite a few of these verses, analyzes these various verses, but Bhaktivedanta Thakur, in order to establish very soundly the position of the Krishna Consciousness movement in his preaching, because it's important to note that prior to Bhaktivedanta Thakur, no other Acharya in our Sampradaya preached in English. All the preaching was done in Sanskrit and Bengali, or what's called Brajabhasha, which is a combination of Sanskrit and local Braj language in Vrindavan. But Bhaktivedanta Thakur was quite unique. He tried to bring the teachings of Lord Chaitanya to McGill University in Montreal, Canada in 1896, incidentally the birth date of our Srila Prabhupada. But what is quite unique, he did a lot of research in all different kinds of scriptures and compiled elaborate quotes, elaborate citations explaining the unique special position of Lord Chaitanya. Various scriptures describe his birthplace, describe that he would appear as a sannyasi in a family of a brahmana, born of Jagannath Mishra and Sachi Devi, the purpose of his appearance, the time of his appearance. Very special position, very unique position. 2 weeks ago, we were reading from the Caitanya Upanishad and the Caitanya-caritāmṛta commentary, basically explaining the position of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in the Vedas. And Bhaktivedanta Thakur did a wonderful job of explaining this very special position of our Lord, Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now, the prediction of Lord Chaitanya that his name would be sung in every town and village did not come factually true until Srila Prabhupada brought his preaching in 1965 to America. And in 1966, as we are reading every time we have these readings and discussion from Srila Prabhupada's diary, that he was the chosen representative of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to bring this message, this Gauravani Pracharine, this preaching of the message of Lord Chaitanya to the Western countries and eventually all over the world. And I'm sure, it was a very unique and very fortunate situation that some of us had the opportunity to physically meet Srila Prabhupada, greeting him at various airports, sitting with him, taking walks with him, doing services for his mission. This was maybe our very good fortune. But no one is deprived of the association of Srila Prabhupada, whether or not they physically met him or not, whether or not they went on a morning walk with Prabhupada or got the chance to greet him in an airport reception, which were very ecstatic. It doesn't matter. In Toronto in 1975, there was an Indian gentleman on a walk with Srila Prabhupada who asked Srila Prabhupada that we want to associate with you personally, this living physical idea. Prabhupada said, yeah, that's all right. If you want to understand me, you read my books. Prabhupada always referred to his books to understand his personality, his life, his teachings, how to associate with him. What is especially significant about Bhaktivedanta Thakur, in 1914, on the Samadhi of Haridas Thakur, he put a nice marble plaque there where he described the position of Vaishnavas. He reasons ill who tells that Vaishnavas die. He had a very nice poetry that Sachidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur immortalized there on the wall, right close to Haridas Thakur's Samadhi. Now, it's quite unique because there is no other religion in the world, no other religious faith, which can explain the avatar of God in this age. But it is explained, it is there. Now, some may accept, some may not accept. Those who are very fortunate, they will accept. They will understand. Whether it is due to good fortune in the past life, or whether it is due to causeless mercy of Srila Prabhupada in this life, or whether it is due to coming in contact with Srila Prabhupada's books. Just before we had this class, this reading, I got an email from a devotee in Europe. I've never heard this devotee, but he was showing a Bhagavad Gita and a Nectar of Devotion original books, and they were in the street distributing these books in a very blissful way, very happy way. There are many devotees, dedicated devotees, very sincere devotees, who are dedicated to continuing the mission of Srila Prabhupada. There is some group of people, unfortunately, who think that the mission of Srila Prabhupada is dependent upon some ecclesiastical arrangement or some kind of ecclesiastical position. It's interesting how in 1976 in September, in a morning walk in Vrindavan, Srila Prabhupada was describing about how Lord Krishna can spread his movement. Krishna does not depend upon anyone. And Prabhupada made a startling statement. He says, thousands of temple presidents and GBCs may come and go. Lord Krishna's mission will be done. He does not require anyone. He does not depend upon anyone. So whatever service we can do for the mission of Srila Prabhupada and the previous acharyas, such as his Guru Maharaj, His Divine Grace Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and His Divine Grace Sachidananda Bhaktivedanta Thakur, and all the previous acharyas, Whatever service, even insignificant service, is for our eternal benefit. But we should never be under the illusion thinking that Krishna or Srila Prabhupada, Lord Chaitanya, depends upon us or depends upon our service or our position or some kind of title. No. Prabhupada confirmed it right in that morning walk. Krishna gives everyone a chance to come back home, back to Godhead. And one has to want to go back to Godhead, was to want to get that bhakti. There's the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami quotes a verse that this bhakti is so rare that if you can find it, go and purchase it. So how do you purchase the bhakti? You have to purchase from a pure bhakta, from a shuddha bhakta, from a completely pure devotee. Completely pure devotee with no personal motivation. And it doesn't matter. Bhakti does not depend upon any pious activities, giving in charity, meditation, penances, fasting, none of that. Bhakti is causeless. We keep reading, discussing the Shikshastakam of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. How Chaitanya Mahaprabhu describes Bhavatat Bhakti Tukitvayi, that I simply want this causeless devotional service birth after birth. This is what we should be aspiring for. This is very important to remember. Not simply money making or big name and fame or big position or so-and-so is a senior devotee. Okay, that's very nice, Mr. Senior Devotee. The other day, somebody sent me a picture of a devotee being carried on a palanquin and people were throwing rose petals at him. I said, that's nice, okay. How about if you put Prabhupada on a palanquin and put the rose petals on him? How about that part? Why are people so eager to get themselves worshipped, to get themselves recognized, to get themselves glorified? Now somebody may say, well, Yasoda, in the Shastras it described that Vaishnavas should be recognized, they should be praised, they should worship. That's great, do that. So worship the greatest Vaishnava, Srila Prabhupada. But Vaishnavas should also understand their position. Don't discriminate that one Vaishnava is worshipable and another group of Vaishnava is not worshipable. Worship all of them. We're not a mutual admiration society. We have a philosophy behind all this. Why do we worship the Guru as good as Krishna? Mahabhagavata srishtu brahmanove gururnrinam sarve shamevalokanam aso pujyo yataharihi. We worship the Guru as pure devotee because he's Mahabhagavata Srishno, topmost Mahabhagavat, not just a regular Bhagavat, topmost Mahabhagavat. That is why we worship the Guru, the Acharya, as good as Krishna. Very special, because he can deliver Krishna. Krishna se toma, Krishna dite par. Tomara shakatiya. You have the power. You have the power of the connection with Krishna. You are a pure person who has realized Krishna. Therefore, we simply beg for the mercy of the pure devotee. This is the essence of Prabhupada's teachings, the essence of his writings, the essence of Vaishnava philosophy. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, for that discussion on these verses, and we'll carry on with them with our group. And I wanted to mention that you're so accurate in your statements about the position of Prabhupada in his presentation of Krishna consciousness through his books. We have the good fortune to be able to read them on a regular basis. And when you do that, it reveals a treasure house of transcendental information that is unique in the history of the world. Sometimes, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, I know this in our discussions with some of our godbrothers, they tell us that Prabhupada did not present the topmost philosophy of Krishna consciousness in his books, but other godbrothers of his have. And in our particular experience, it has come to our understanding that these people have never really read the books. And how can you make a statement like that without carefully reading Prabhupada's books, especially the Caitanya-caritāmṛta, which is the postgraduate study of spiritual life? There is nothing more elevated than the instructions that he is delivering to us, the information that is being delivered to us in Caitanya-caritāmṛta. Now today, I know all of you are on reading programs, and I'm also reading the Caitanya-caritāmṛta moving forward every day, finishing the book, and I'm reading in this section from The Lord Instructs Sanatana Goswami, and it is Madhya Lila chapter 20, text 329. Madhya Lila chapter 20, text 329, and it's related to the discussion today in the reading. So Lord Chaitanya is teaching Sanatana Goswami the realities of the transcendental world that is revealed on the pages of this literature. O Sanatana, now hear from me about the Yuga avatars. I'll just read on with the English. The incarnations for the millenniums. First of all, there are 4 yugas: Satya Yuga, Treta Yuga, Dwapara Yuga, and Kali Yuga. In the 4 yugas, Satya, Treta, Dwapara, and Kali, the Lord incarnates in 4 colors: white, red, black, and yellow, respectively. These are the colors of the incarnations in different millenniums. Translation, text 331. This child formerly had 3 colors according to the prescribed color for different millenniums. Formerly he was white, red, and yellow, and now he has assumed a blackish color. Text 332. In the Satya Yuga, the Lord appeared in a body colored white with 4 arms and matted hair. He wore tree bark and bore a black antelope skin. He wore a sacred thread and a garland of rudraksha beads. He carried a rod and water pot, and he was a brahmachari. Text 333. In the Treta Yuga, the Lord appeared in a body that had a reddish hue and 4 arms. There were 3 distinctive lines in his abdomen, and his hair was golden. His form manifested the Vedic knowledge, and he bore the symbols of a sacrificial spoon, ladle, and so on. So we're going to get to his appearance here. As the white incarnation, the Lord taught religion and meditation. He offered benedictions to Kardama Muni, and in this way he showed his causeless mercy. In the Satya Yuga, the people were generally advanced in spiritual knowledge and could meditate upon Krishna very easily. The people's occupational duty in Treta Yuga was to perform sacrifices. That was induced by the personality of Godhead in his reddish incarnation. In Dwapara Yuga, the people's occupational duty was to worship the lotus feet of Krishna. Therefore, Lord Krishna's appearing in a blackish body personally induced people to worship him. So Lord Chaitanya is instructing Sanatana Goswami on the different manifestations or incarnations of the Lord. In the Dwapara Yuga, the personality of Godhead appears in a blackish hue. He is dressed in yellow, he holds his own weapons, and he's decorated with the Kaustubha jewel and the marks of Srivatsa. This is how his symptoms are described. And let's go right to text 339, Vinkat. By this mantra, the people worship Lord Krishna in the Dwapara Yuga. In the Kali Yuga, the occupation of the people is to chant congregationally the holy name of Krishna. As stated in the Bhagavatam, Koler doshe nidhe rajan estihi eko manha gune kirtanad eva krishnasya mukta bandha param brajet. In the Kali Yuga, one worships Lord Krishna by chanting Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. To propagate this movement, Lord Krishna personally appeared as Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that is described in the following verse. Accompanied by his personal devotees, Lord Krishna, assuming a golden color, introduces the Harinam Sankirtan, the chanting of the Hare Krishna mantra in the age of Kali. By this process, he delivers love for Krishna to the general populace. Lord Krishna, the son of Maharaj, Nanda Maharaj, personally induces the occupational duty of the age. He personally chants and dances in ecstatic love, and thus the entire world chants congregationally. And here, Krishna Varnam Twishna Krishnam Sango Pangastra Parshadam Yagne Sankirtan Payer Yajanti He Sumedashaha. In this age of Kali, intelligent persons perform congregational chanting to worship the incarnation of Godhead, who constantly sings the name of Krishna. Although his complexion is not blackish, he is Krishna himself. He is accompanied by his associates, servants, weapons, and confidential companions. So here we've come to a section where Lord Chaitanya is definitively explaining who he is in this vast creation that exists by his grace. And I wanted to just at the end, Vinkat, if you could go to text 404 at the end of the chapter, Madhya Lila, chapter 20. In this way, Krishna's transcendental forms, text 404, chapter 20. In this way, Krishna's transcendental forms are expanded unlimitedly. No one can count them. Whatever I have explained is simply a little glimpse. It is like showing the moon through the branches of a tree. And then text 405, and this is how I felt after finishing this chapter today. Whoever hears or recites the descriptions of the expansions of Krishna's body is certainly a very fortunate man. Although this is very difficult to understand, one can nevertheless acquire some knowledge about the different features of Krishna's body. So the point is here that Prabhupada has delivered this information to us by his causeless mercy. And this is the highest understanding possible by the living entity. And we are very fortunate to be his disciples. Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, please.
Yes, this is a very important point, because we see in discussions with various spiritualists or religionists or people of various faiths, when we try to present that Krishna is God, many of them immediately will object. It's interesting how in December of 1972 in Bombay, Srila Prabhupada had a guest in his room who obviously he was an Indian gentleman from a different faith. And when Prabhupada was explaining that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he objected. And Prabhupada basically interrupted his explanation and said, So if you do not accept that Krishna is God, then you explain to us, who is God? What does he do? Where does he live? What are his activities? Can you explain now? And the man was totally stunned by Srila Prabhupada's boldness. It's just like some vague, amorphous nonsense. But Srila Prabhupada was very clear. When we look at Srila Prabhupada's books, everything is very clear. Everything is very well defined. Everything is very nicely and sweetly explained. What does God do? Where does he live? What are his qualities? What are his activities? What is his family? Who are his companions? Why does he come here? We read in the Caitanya-caritāmṛta tonight how Srila Prabhupada explains that Krishna comes to basically paritranaya sadhunam vinashaya chadushkanam, to protect the devotees, the pious, and to annihilate the miscreants, the demons. Now, in previous incarnations, there was a lot of fighting. We see in the Bhagavatam, in various cantos, there's all kinds of fights that Krishna engages with demons. But in this incarnation of Lord Chaitanya, there's no demon killing. When Lord Chaitanya went to the scene of Jagai and Madai, who had injured Lord Nityananda and Haridas Thakur, because they went on Sankirtan and requested everybody please chant Hare Krishna, and Jagai Madai took a pot and broke, and there was blood on Nityananda and Hari Thakur's body. Lord Chaitanya was going to kill them. He brought his Sudarshan Chakra, and he was going to kill them. And Lord Nityananda reminded them, well, in this incarnation, you've come here to save the world, not to kill them. That's to spare them. Don't kill them. This is not the purpose of your incarnation. The purpose of that incarnation of Lord Chaitanya is to deliver all living entities to this Sankirtan. And this is the special position of Srila Prabhupada, the empowered ambassador, the empowered representative of Srila Prabhupada, who went all over the world, delivered the Maha Mantra, and brought this amazing transcendental revolution of Lord Chaitanya's teachings. I wondered if Balaram could maybe comment on this. I know he has a lot of good realizations on these issues.
Glories to all the Vaishnavas. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Hare Krishna.
Wonderful discourses, Prabhus, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu and Vishwakarma Prabhu. Yeah, it's very interesting how you were saying that no one actually understands the personality of Godhead. They don't understand. I was just listening to a lecture by Srila Prabhupada this morning, and he was explaining that at the very most, people have a vague idea of God. That's all, simply a vague idea. Some think he's great, some think he's merciful. Most of the religionists, they've got some, but there's nothing personal. There's no personal understanding. And Prabhupada said that unless you know God, how can you serve him? He made a very wonderful point, as Prabhupada always does. And he explained that if I receive a note, go and serve Mr. Jones and give him this. The thing is, if I don't know who Mr. Jones is, how can I do that service? So therefore, from the Acharyas, right down the Parampara, from Srila Prabhupada, we're actually understanding the personality of Godhead. The way that Srila Prabhupada, that was one thing that when I first came to Krishna Consciousness, 1972, I'd never heard God described as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That was unique, the way that Srila Prabhupada explained the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Right from the very start, Prabhupada explained that God has a personality. And that is quite unique to the Vaishnava Sampradaya, the personality of Godhead. And Srila Prabhupada has given us that special mercy. And it's no coincidence, just like we've been describing and hearing about the appearance and manifestation of Mahaprabhu and the Panchatattva. It's no coincidence or accident that simply 4,500 years after the appearance of Lord Krishna, that Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has appeared with his weapons, with his associates, with the weapon of the holy name. Prabhupada said that actually the holy name is actually the weapon that's used to cut through the Hridaya Granthis, the hard knot of material attachment which is in the heart. And that material attachment, of course, as soon as we're in the material world, the modes of material nature, the three modes, and all the combinations and permutations of those modes of material nature, 3 times 3, 9, 3 nines, 27, 3 27s, 81. These material modes are so entangling that it's impossible. Just like you've got a rope that's got so many knots in it, so hard to do. So therefore, instead of trying to undo all these little knots, the chanting of the holy name delivered by Mahaprabhu can simply cut through that hard knot of material attachment. So we have to be we have to be strict and serious in our devotional service. I mean, we can't. And sometimes devotees will say, "How do I know if I'm advancing? You know, I've been chanting my rounds, I've been doing my service, preaching when we have the opportunity." These days, of course, we don't have quite so much the same opportunity as we did back in the temple days when we're surrounded by so much opportunity there. But at the same time, we should feel enthusiastic in our chanting, in our reading. You know, if we're not feeling enthusiastic to read, to worship Tulsi, to speak to people, to preach about Krishna consciousness, that's how we know that we're advancing, right? So this comes through association, and I would like to thank especially Vishwakarma Prabhu, Venkat Prabhu, Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu, and all the assembled Vaishnavas here, because I myself personally have gained a lot over the last, what did we say, Vishwakarma, how many classes? 100 classes?
113.
113 classes. I think I was here right from the very start. I always was in contact with Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu over the years, and always valued his association from the time that we spent in Fiji and in India, a little like that. So, but this is very wonderful that we've got this association, because that's what keeps us strong. Prabhupada said, if you've got a single stick, you can break it. But you have many sticks together, very hard to break. So, all glories to the Vaishnavas. Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. We have with us in Hawaii, and because Prabhupada was effective in spreading Krishna consciousness globally, the remains of his mission are still seen in different parts of the world. Actually, before we go to Janaspriya, I wanted to mention I just saw a picture of some fabulous Yaśoda temple in South America. And I'm not sure, it was put up by Kanta, I believe, who's on this group page. But extraordinary work, and it looks like it's somewhat become, deteriorated over time, unfortunately. But what a great achievement that took place there, and the great achievements that had evolved during Prabhupada's personal presence, and subsequently with his disciples pushing on the mission. Janaspriya in Hawaii, could you please share some information on how Prabhupada spread Krishna consciousness all over the world with his dynamic preaching work?
Hare Krishna, please accept my humble obeisances. Yes, we're so very, very fortunate that Lord Chaitanya appeared 5,000 years ago. He appears once in the day of Brahma. And if you consider 5,000 years ago, it's like a minute or less. It's very. They're still blood relatives of the Panchatattva on the planet. So this is amazing that Srila Prabhupada spread this movement under the order of his spiritual master, but of course, this order came from Lord Chaitanya, because he said, whoever you meet, you must tell them about Krishna. So this should be our motto. One time we were doing traveling Sankirtan, and I was driving, and I forgot. I think we didn't know it was a Kadasi, so we said we have to perform an austerity this morning. Whoever we meet, the first person we meet, we must tell them about Krishna. So we're on the freeway, and I was speeding, and a cat pulled me over. So I have to tell this cat about Krishna because that was the mission. So he started writing the ticket, and he saw the tilak and the beads, and so I told him, "Do you know that Krishna is God?" And first he had this weird look on his face, and then he said, "You know, I've been wanting to know about you guys." And we look at each other, me and my devotee friend, and go, "Hare Krishna." So we tried to give him a book, and of course he said, "No, I'm on duty, I cannot accept the book." But we should do that. Whoever we meet, we should preach to them about Krishna. That's what Srila Prabhupada did. Prabhupada did not waste 1 second. If there was an audience, even one person or 100 or 1,000, what did Prabhupada do? He talked about Krishna. And on his last breath, what was he doing? Talking about Krishna. So this should be our goal, to somehow accomplish that as much as we can within our ability and knowledge. And Prabhupada said the perfect example was the little girl Sarasvati, Shyamasundara's daughter, and she will walk up to people and say, "Do you know that Krishna is the Supreme Personality of Godhead?" And Prabhupada said, "That's perfect preaching." Hare Krishna.
To all of you for participating today in the class. Vinkat, do we have any comments or questions from our chat that we can present to Yaśodā-nandana for his response? Do you see anything?
Let me just check YouTube.
Okay, go ahead. Just while you're looking, I wanted to mention it. Yeah, Jonas Priya, it was a great time for all of us. I know that in Canada here, we went out as young men in a van with no facility, no money, no support at all, and just took off and started to drive up north into northern Canada and go into all these towns and villages and get the credit for being the first people in the history of this country to chant the holy name in every town and village. And we made our way all the way up to North Bay. Then we went to Winnipeg, and then we went down through the States. And during that journey, we were meeting people and making devotees and just living on the edge of life and depending completely on Krishna and Krishna's mercy and Prabhupada's taking shelter of Prabhupada's instructions solely as our purpose in life. So amazing when you actually take up this mission with all enthusiasm. Anything, Vinkat?
No, there's nothing.
Nothing today. Okay, so we're going to end up the discussion and reading today. We want to thank everyone for participating. And remember, we're looking forward to this grand celebration on, Yaśodā, it's Sunday evening, correct? The initiation
Evening,
ceremony.
6 o'clock Pacific time, 9 o'clock Eastern Time.
Yeah, this is a very important part of what we're doing. And by the way, we have in our group a lot of programs that we're working on physically to distribute books, to create magazines, to run online courses for bhaktas, and all kinds of things moving forward into the future. And we invite everyone to be in touch with us as much as you like. If you have any questions or inquiries or any way you want to participate, we're always open to work with you. This is a decentralized type of work that we're organizing. I just put up on the Prabhupada Disciples Association Facebook group, the DOM, Direction of Management, Balaram, which a lot of us never really saw when we were presidents, but gives some insight into how Prabhupada further wanted his mission to be organized by individual people like all of yourselves. You're the centers of influence wherever you live, if it's in Florida, in Alachua, if it's in Hawaii with Janas Priya, with you, Balaram, in Australia, with Vinod in South India, like that, just other Balaram in Turkey, all these different devotees, your leaders in your own right, in your own set of circumstances. It's called Prabhupada Desha, a Prakrita in Montreal, preaching in the particular area that he lives and propagating Krishna consciousness accordingly under the directions of Srila Prabhupada. So thank you again.
Balaram Prabhu has his hand raised.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I missed it. Who was it?
Yeah, so I just had a, maybe if Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu could just explain, sometimes regarding the DOM, the Direction of Management, which was written by Prabhupada in the early 70s, you hear sometimes people will say, oh, well, that was never introduced, even though it was there, because the thing of electing the various GBC members and so on, that it was written there, but it was never actually put into effect. And now after Srila Prabhupada has departed our presence, now we're doing it. So could you speak a little bit briefly on that, Prabhu?
Yes, there's a devotee on this call, some lady named Rupa Manjari Devi Dasi. She's the wife of the late Narayana Prabhu, and her and her husband, former husband, did a lot of research on this issue, because there's various arguments that have been brought forward by proponents of the administration, of the ISKCON administration, that in 1977, on the 28th of May, Srila Prabhupada said a GBC should be elected for good. And they've written some very good articles and various emails with regards to that conversation, as well as the direction of management and the memo to all the temples that was issued by Srila Prabhupada in 1974. In other words, Srila Prabhupada envisioned that he wanted a society without centralization, without too much bureaucracy. What we have seen since 1977 is exactly the opposite. Now, the reason Prabhupada wanted that, he stated many times, he wanted independent temples that would be managed, registered separately, getting their own tax certification or tax exempt certification. And basically the GBC was meant as just as a supervisory body, just to basically supervise that things are going properly, that people are chanting their rounds, that the deity worship is doing nicely. It was never meant as a controlling entity the way they've set it up with the GBC Society of West Bengal, some concocted corporation that's like a holding real estate company that wants to control the assets of everybody. This is madness. Srila Prabhupada never envisioned, never did he ever give authorization for anybody on the GBC to start their own Society of West Bengal. That's a complete concoction. Incidentally, that society had a fraudulent signature on their registration. They forged the signature of one of the signatories. We know that. But besides that point, there is a lot of, although Prabhupada set up the GBC and had a lot of hope they would manage properly, they brought him this concocted guru appointment. I call it the LGEP, the Living Guru Experimental Project, that they have got this concocted idea that somewhere or other in that same conversation, I don't know, they squeezed that interpretation that Srila Prabhupada appointed them as his successor, Diksha Gurus, all of that. But the reality of the documentation does not support that contention. If we study Prabhupada's management principles and how he set up his society, he wanted the temple president to manage these temples, to be in charge, to take charge of the assets of the society, to manage the assets, and the GBC was meant to manage, and he just designated some people to do a service to the society of initiating disciples on behalf of Srila Prabhupada. Oh, they don't like that idea, because it doesn't fit into the personal motive of ambitious people. Now, they may say whatever they like about tradition and disciplined succession. The whole history that has taken place since 1967 clearly shows that there has been disobedience of Srila Prabhupada's instruction, not just on initiation, but on management issue, on everything. Just the fact that they set up their own separate society in West Bengal is evidence of that. And I mean, just within 1 week, I've got 3 different communications from devotees in Germany, some devotees in Trinidad, some devotees in India, and others who've been kicked out of ISKCON temples because they brought too many embarrassing questions for which they really don't have any credible answers. So this is not the kind of society that Srila Prabhupada envisioned. Prabhupada envisioned there which should be open Ishtagoshti, where Brahmin devotees, temple presidents, sannyasis, and senior devotees could assemble and discuss this openly. Can you really discuss openly what's happened in the last 45 years? Yeah, I mean, if somebody asks a question, they kick him out. What kind of society is that? So this point about the management, how Srila Prabhupada expected the management of his society, this is something that devotees you can go on any of the search engines, look at the word GBC, temple presidents. There are so many instructions. It's not like there is a secret. You know, there seems to be a secret cabal of people in this movement who made their own decisions to appoint themselves as acharyas, run across the river to some neo-mat, and take some advice about putting on the uniform of the guru and it was going to tell you what to do, and all sorts of concoctions. And as a matter of fact, in 1978, when you were there, we know that within a few months after 1978, everything in the society was transformed upside down. The Guru Puja, the worship of the deities, the pranam mantras, the kirtans, everything was changed because of this concocted idea, this wishful, nonsensical idea that Prabhupada appointed his so-called successors, so-called material and spiritual successors, as it was described in one of the Vyasa Puja book of one of these self-appointed acharyas. Now, everybody can protest and argue whatever they want about their so-called living guru and tradition. The result has been a disaster for this movement and for the devotees who have been driven away from the shelter of Prabhupada's movement. I'm going to stop there because I know that this could end up to be a discussion that goes on for hours and hours. But devotees can take shelter of Srila Prabhupada safely every single day. That's why Prabhupada said, the temples may fail, the devotees may fail, but my books will never fail. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you. You know, one thing is, before we finish up, I would like to get Bhakta Ran Singh to make a few comments, but I did come across something I sent to Yaśodā-nandana, and I think Vinkat saw it as well. They're doing a conference coming up, a Vedic conference, a Zoom type thing. And they're including all kinds of different people in it, members of the Gaudiya Math, Mayavadis, scholars, They're all on this conference, completely mixing everything into one big hodgepodge of nonsense, completely against the principles that Prabhupada has expounded in his books on how we should present our philosophy according to his words only. So this is the unfortunate situation, and the function of our group is to inspire each other to carry on and represent our spiritual master by presenting his words only. Bhakti Ron, maybe you'd like to make a comment on the direction of management before we go to the kirtan.
Yaśodā-nandana Prabhu basically summarized the whole thing, that Srila Prabhupada systematically set up the whole Krishna Consciousness movement from 1965, incorporation of ISKCON 1966 with the Constitution, and then the temples and centers were basically built around that by trained up devotees that Srila Prabhupada personally trained. And then as the temples were increasing, Srila Prabhupada envisioned the whole worldwide movement with, and then he wrote the direction of management in 1970. And he systematically over the years checked imbalances or takeovers or hijacking of, ISKCON by individual members. And then he established the Bhaktivedanta Book Trust in 1972. And before that, it was a ISKCON Press. So these are the histories of Prabhupada's movement. And unless one knows specifically how things were going back in time in 66, all the way till 1970, and then the the creation of Prabhupada's Bhaktivedanta Book Trust, and then Srila Prabhupada seeing how the management was not according to his standard, then he wrote that letter to Karandara in 1972 about how he wanted the corporation to be set up locally, individual devotees, and the senior devotees helping the junior devotees in getting up to the standard and everything. And then in 1974, as Yaśodā-nandana said that the topmost urgency letter, all these things were never implemented. So the leaders from the very beginning had some ulterior motive in basically hijacking the movement. And this systematically occurred from 1970 to 1977. And yesterday I was reading Hridayananda's translation of Prabhupada's book. I sent it to Vishwakarma Prabhu. I just made a brief comment about how he was writing, very illicit type of writing he was propagating in his book.
Well, we all know that there's been a lot of chaos since Prabhupada's departure, and this is unfortunate. We're going to go to our section of kirtan now. Vinkad has a beautiful recording of Prabhupada in the studio playing the bongo drum, and the devotees clapping along and playing cartels as best they could, and chanting Hare Krishna, and enjoying the transcendental sound vibration, which we can also enjoy today at the end of this class. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and the Sankirtan mission.
Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur-bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Sivasadi Gaur-bhakta-vrinda Shri Krishna Caitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare.
Vanchakalpatarubhyascha kripa sindubhya eva cha patitanam pavanebhyo
Yo.
vaishnavibhyo namo namaha. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna.